All right, good Monday afternoon, everyone. Thanks for stopping by for a check of the forecast. We continue to see those critical fire conditions across the high plains today. It is 4:30 p.m. right now. It is February 9th, year of our Lord 2026. We're taking a live look from bushland, that sky cam looking in a northeast direction towards the Wild Horse Fire, which is inside the city limits of Amarillo. That one has threatened at least 10 structures since it got going between 12 and 1 p.m. today. It's currently burning up there in the North Heights district around Hughes Street and Northwest 9th Street from the last update that we have received. We do know that there are some air resources being utilized to also battle the eastern flank of this fire. You can see there is some black smoke emanating from that fire right now, so it does look like there could be a structure burning out there at this point in time. That's some really dark smoke too, so it does look like there could be a potential structure on fire with that one. So we'll have to continue to try and dig some additional information up on that. Go ahead. I'm going to take a quick screenshot, y'all, so we'll get this off your screen for a quick second. It won't take very long. Forward this to the newsroom. All right, I'm going to look at our power outage map. So it does look like there are some people without power due to that fire that's burning in North Amarillo. See, right around 1,000 people without power right now. It was up to 3,500 about 20 minutes ago. So you can actually see the smoke plume here on radar for the Amarillo radar. If we go ahead and put this into motion, you can see it right here emanating from the north side of town. That's just a radar beam being cast through the smoke. It's bouncing off a lot of those particulates in the air, and that's when you're getting that return of that feedback from the radar beam. So again, little smoke plume notable there with that fire. There's about 1,000 that are without electricity right now, and it's burning up there around Northwest 9th Street that we are aware of. Definitely looks like there could be a structure on fire right now. Wrong one. That's from the Amarillo Lake area. So, oh, that's from MLK. Mm-hmm. That's from 345. So we do know that there are air resources being utilized for this wild horse fire. They're trying to battle the eastern flank of that fire with the air resources. So like your single engine air tankers, things like that. There was an additional request for 5 more units from Texas A&M Forest Service to help battle this blaze. Again, it's in a very populated area. It's in Potter County up on the north side of town. It has jumped the boulevard and continues to burn in a north and east direction. Definitely looks like there that it could be burning through a good portion of the North Heights area. It's still estimated to be 15 acres. It's at 25% containment. The last update we got from it was 26 minutes ago. go ahead and take a quick look. So this is kind of what we know right now. 15 acres burned, 25% containment. And again, this is the Wild Horse Fire here in Potter County, burning near Northwest 9th Street and Hughes Street up there. It has jumped the boulevard. Air resources are being utilized to battle the eastern flank of that fire. And so they may put down some fire retardant out ahead of this thing to try and keep it from burning into some, again, densely populated areas of North Heights where there's a lot of homes. Some details about what's being deemed or dubbed the 352 fire there in Quay County. This one is 1,000 acres burned. That's just estimated. It's not the exact number, but that's a pretty good idea of how many acres it has consumed. Still at 0% containment, but we continue to watch it on satellite, and it does look like it has kind of fallen apart over the last, hour to 2 hours. There looks like there's probably a pretty good containment line put out ahead of that one near the Highway 469 corridor between Ute Lake and San Home. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat, y'all. But that one looks like it's running into a pretty good fire break that was put down, and it probably will continue to smolder and just kind of slowly just peter out. And then we have a vegetation fire that we don't really know much about. There hasn't been any updates on that one in Oldham County, but we do know that it started around Boys Ranch along Highway 385. But the acres burn, the containment, again, that's kind of unknown at this point. So we have really just kind of two large fires, or one large fire, and then we have the one impactful fire here inside of Amarillo's city limits. Again, the 352 fires. Our biggest one out there in Quay County, that one's 1,000 acres burned and 0% containment right now. And then we do have that small fire of 15 acres burned here in town, but it's in the Northern Heights district, and it's burning in a very densely populated area. There's a lot of homes up there. We know that it's burning around 9th Street right now. So it did jump over the boulevard, but that was about a half hour ago. So, I mean, we could be talking about it maybe getting up closer to 10th Street at this point if it is continuing to burn in a north and east direction. So kind of around Delvin's Restaurant and Catering, areas between there and the boulevard, you guys are kind of in the path of this. North Ong Street, Hayden Street, some of those areas, that's where that fire's getting really close. Union Barber Shop, if you guys know where that's at. That's kind of downwind of this thing. New Hope Baptist Church is kind of right there, real close to the source of the fire. But again, that's on the other side of Business 40, and then Jones Grill and Treats. So that's where that fire is burning right now. Again, it's 15 acres burned, and it's at 25% containment. Let's go ahead and take a look at our conditions, current conditions out there. We are experiencing some pretty warm temperatures today. Most of us are seeing temperatures in the 70s. We did get into the 80s in Canadian and Shamrock this afternoon. No record high for Amarillo. Our record today was 82. We have not gotten there, but the big factor with this is it's just been warm. It's been very dry, and really between highways 54 and highway 60, we've had some very strong winds. They've been sustained as high as 30 miles an hour through the afternoon. We've seen gusts as high as 40. Most of them aren't quite that bad, but we have seen some gusts of 30 to 35 pretty regularly through this afternoon. And that's why we're under those critical to extremely critical fire conditions in this narrower corridor between highways 54 and highway 60. You can see relative humidity values in that 7 to 10% range. So definitely very dry air. The strong winds, again, continue to fuel those fires and continue to push them downwind. The red flag warning is going to run until 6 o'clock tonight. We might see this extended. That's something that we'll have to monitor. Looks like they did actually push it to 7 p.m., so we'll make some adjustments there as needed. Again, critical fire conditions to extremely critical fire conditions are being present right now from basically Highway 60 corridor to Highway 54 corridor. So just make sure that you're avoiding activities that could start a fire. All that grass is really responsive to an open flame source or a spark. So things that you need to be avoiding: parking your vehicle on the tall, dry grass, keeping it running. Again, those catalytic converters get pretty hot. Your exhausts get pretty hot, and that can sometimes catch the grass on fire. If you're having some car trouble, don't pull off the road into the grass. Make sure you're off the road, or at least off the highway, but maybe in the shoulder. because again, that grass, if it catches today, it's going to burn very quick and it's going to spread pretty fast. So there's those lows for tomorrow night. Should be down to about 30 degrees in Amarillo behind that cold front. Let's go ahead and talk about it for you. We are expecting those winds to be a little on the strong side, particularly immediately following the cold front's passage. We are expecting winds to be out of the north around 20 to 25 miles an hour, and they could gust as high as 40 in the late morning and afternoon hours. So it's going to be another windy day. It's going to be colder though, and so our humidity values will be a little higher. So the fire threat maybe not quite as big of an issue, but we'll at least have a wind-driven fire threat with those winds gusting to that strength and that magnitude. Getting into Wednesday morning, you can see we are pretty cold, but we do moderate back into the 60s. Winds will start to turn back to the south, and they should be a little calmer on Wednesday, around 10 to 15 miles an hour. Here's our next weather maker. We won't focus a whole lot on it because we do have those fire conditions present this afternoon, but Thursday, out ahead of our next cold front, we are going to be warm again. You can see again the jet stream really cranking out of the southwest. You can see there is a trough out here where we are expecting our next storm system to originate from, and it's going to come through the desert southwest, and eventually we think it's going to lead to that chance for some precipitation here in the high plains. In fact, that's something that models have been very excited about the last 24 to 36 hours. The ensembles have been giving us about an 80 to 90% chance for measurable moisture, which is 1/100th of an inch of precipitation, and they've been giving us about a 60% chance for at least 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of precipitation. So if this continues to hold the pattern and the trend, we're going to be talking about the chance for rain on Valentine's Day, most likely, potentially as early as the Friday the 13th evening, and then heading into Saturday. That looks like it'll be kind of the big window for the rainfall. But if it does come through a little earlier, we may be talking more about the fire threat there, or rather the rain chance on Friday as well. But we've got a 10% chance Friday for now, and then a 60% chance for rain on Saturday, which is, again, hopefully going to help bat those critical fire conditions down a little bit for the next week or two. We are still in our dry season. I mean, this is pretty common for us to have critical fire threats in February and in March. So this isn't uncommon. We have to deal with this every year. Looks like there's not as much black smoke right now with that wild horse fire, but we definitely still have a plume there. It's more of that white smoke, so that's more of the vegetation rather than man-made structures burning. But definitely still something that we need to pay attention for our friends in North Heights districts. We're going to let you guys watch the Skycam for a little bit, and if you have questions, feel free to ask away and we'll get them answered for you. All right, another quick update for you guys. We do have that fire, wild horse fire, on the north side of Amarillo in Potter County, burning between Hughes Street and Northwest Ninth. It did jump over the boulevard earlier this afternoon. This fire got going about 4 hours ago. It's been burning since a little bit before 1 p.m. and it started over at MLK Park up by the boulevard and a lot of the grass out there. It has since then burned out in the park, but we still have some fire burning on the other side of the boulevard, which continues to threaten some homes. We haven't had a recent update from Amarillo Fire Department from this one. As of this afternoon at 3:09, there was 10 structures that were threatened. None of them were consumed. We do expect this to continue to be a risk to some structures, though, as that is a very populated area there in North Heights, lots of homes up there. And so hopefully the firefighters continue to keep and save those structures as that fire continues to burn and some of the vegetation out there. We have seen a couple of black plumes of smoke come up recently from this fire. So hoping that that's not a home. Hopefully, I mean, it's just it's going to be some man-made material, but hopefully maybe a couple of tires, things like that, rather than an actual building or someone's house. So hoping for the best up there. We do know they have air resources out there battling that blaze. They are trying to confront the eastern flank of the fire to hopefully put a better containment line down. You can see there's one of those single engine air tankers on the camera view right now flying overhead. So they are responding and communicating with ground crews, trying to let them know where exactly the worst fire hotspots are within that wildfire and how they can get to it. And so they're communicating constantly with the down there with the crews at the surface, and hopefully we'll get this thing under control this evening. So as far as the updates we know, again, we've talked about this one, the Wild Horse, it's 15 acres, 25% contained, burning around Northwest 9th Street and Hughes Street. The air resources are putting down a barrier or trying to battle the east flank of that fire. The 352 fire over in Quay County, that one is about 1,000 acres burned and is at 0% containment, but we have seen it continue to get weaker on the hotspot on satellite, but Highway 469, as far as we know, is still closed. And we did have a small vegetation fire as well over in Oldham County. That one seems to have petered out, and we haven't seen much of a flare up from that one. There is a possible fourth fire, not confirmed, but it does look like there could be maybe does look like there is actually a hot spot now north of I-40 there near McLean. That's going to be up there in Wheeler County and parts of Gray County. So that is another one that we'll keep an eye on for you. So we're getting ready to start the 5 o'clock show. So you probably won't see me here talking for bits and pieces of the show, but we do have another new fire that's got going over near McLean. It looks like this fire is just to the north of I-40 as well. This one's kind of right there on the county line between Gray and Wheeler County. And that's one that we'll need to keep an eye on too. That one just got going, so it could start to grow pretty fast in the conditions that we have today. Winds have been sustained around 20 to 30 miles per hour. Our relative humidity values have been as low as 7%, so a very, very prime fire weather conditions, and that's why we had 4 fires break out today. We had that really small one, that vegetation fire near Boyce Ranch. That one seems to be under control at this point. Still some smoldering happening over there in Quay County, mainly along the head of the fire, but looks like it's pretty well contained at this point. And again, it has not jumped Highway 469 over there in Quay County. As far as we know, it's still closed though between San Juan and Logan, New Mexico. The fire that we're mostly and closely watching is the one here in Amarillo. It is inside the city limits. That one is burning in the North Heights district. We do know that there is air response on that fire. They're trying to put a containment line down on the east flank, so kind of hoping to maybe stop the head of that fire, pinch it off, and keep it from getting too much out of hand. But you're actually looking at that fire on our sky cam here in Bushland, and we'll have to see if we can get some additional information on the one over by McLean. All right, you guys are still gonna have a live feed, but you probably won't hear anything for a few minutes here. All right, so we are back, y'all. We continue to track the fire up in North Amarillo. That one's still having air resources battling the blaze. You may occasionally see a single engine air tanker fly across the screen over that fire. Texas A&M Forest Service, there was a request to have some additional units on that fire probably an hour ago, about 45 minutes ago. So they were asking for 5 more engines to battle that blaze down there. But that one's burning around Northwest 9th and Hughes up in the North Heights district. So again, just some additional details on that one. 15 acres burned, 25% containment, burning near Northwest 9th, kind of everything that we have reiterated here recently. The 352 fire out there in New Mexico, before I jump to that one, there are about 1,000 people that are without electricity and power up there in the North Heights district just due to that grass fire. So there's about 1,000 people in Amarillo that do not have electricity at this hour. So let's go ahead and jump over to Quay County. 352 fire is what that one's been named. That one is burned roughly 1,000 acres, still estimated at 0% containment. Make sure that that's right. Yeah, 1,000 acres burned, 0% containment. And that's all we know. It kind of started north of I-40 at mile marker 352, and that's why they got dubbed it the 352 fire west of San Juan. Again, it did shut down State Road 469 north of San Juan between there and Logan. There's a handful of houses on that highway, so there are maybe a few people that are evacuated from it, but not a large scale evacuation. Just a couple of homes there close to State Road 469 or right off of 469. The vegetation fire that we saw briefly out there on 385 near Boys Ranch is being called the BR6 fire. That one's now estimated to be 10 acres burned and is at 20% containment. And then there's that new fire out there near McLean. Let's go ahead and drag satellite over so you guys can see that.
This is by the airport.
The one by McLean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's out by the airport there near McLean, right near the county line between Gray and Wheeler County. So you can see that little black spot that popped up there in the southwest corner of Wheeler County. That's the grass fire that's recently developed near the airport, but no other information on that one. So we've had 4 fires so far today. It was a weather alert day due to fire conditions being present. We thought that this could happen today. Unfortunately, about 85% of all of our fires that happen here in the High Plains are started by us as humans. Most of them are accidental, but it's still a human-caused fire, 85% of them anyway. As long as we're doing our due diligence, usually it ends up being a pretty quiet day, but sorry, I'm reading. Amarillo Boulevard is closed in both directions from Hughes Street to McMaster's. So try and avoid that area if you can. You should be avoiding it anyway, but so we'll get that changed and edited over. So looks like I-40 Business Amarillo Boulevard is closed between McMaster's and Hughes Street as crews continue to battle that blaze that you're looking at right there. So this is our wild horse fire that you're looking at right now. If you don't have our Storm Surge 7 weather app, we'll go ahead and show you that QR code just so you can scan it so you can stay weather aware with us here at Storm Surge 7. It is a free app. You've got fire detection on that as a key feature, which you can continue to track these wildfires around the region with it. But this fire is kind of the most problematic one that we've had so far today, and just because it's been in a very densely populated area. It's inside the city limits of Amarillo. It's caused the Amarillo Boulevard to be shut down as of late between McMaster's and Hughes Street, so kind of in that northwest corner of the city. It started over at the MLK Park right off of the boulevard, and it did actually jump the boulevard and is now kind of burning around Northwest 9th Street and potentially getting up towards 10th Street. We haven't heard an update in that regard on if it's continued to push that direction. The winds are going to push it that direction, but we haven't had an update from any of our sources.
For the MLK Park, it's looking like it's back in the park and burning further west.
Back into the park and burning west now. Yeah, because McMaster's is actually west of MLK. So the Temple of Praise Community Church kind of areas along and west, southwest of there is where you're seeing probably some of this smoke originate from, kind of the western side of the fire near Front Boulevard. Probably some of those homes out there just to the south of I-40 Business, there between McMaster's and Hughes Street. Go ahead and change this one over to the BR6 fire. See if you can find any more information on that one by McLean.
Mm-hmm.
So again, there's not a whole lot of information on that fire near McLean, but there is a hot spot out there, so there's definitely a fire burning. Looks like there's some more man-made material that's on fire right now. You see some of that dark smoke emanating from the North Heights district. That is probably, we're hoping it's not anyone's house. It looks like it's a pretty small plume. We are seeing some improvement for the power outages. That's good. We're down to 200 people now without power, and those are probably all of those around McMaster's and Hughes on the south and north side of the boulevard. Just kind of a small section there where there's about 200 people still without power due to that grass fire that you're seeing, at least the smoke plume that we're seeing from there. They are using single engine air tankers to help combat the blaze here. They've got some air resources helping direct ground crews to the hottest spots of that fire. Texas A&M Forest Service is out helping and assisting on this one as well. All right, y'all. Josiah should have some information on this new fire by McLean at some point, I think here in the next few minutes. We've got about 200 people without power right now in the Amarillo area from the wild horse fire. Nothing.
Yeah, the sheriff's office. It's like,
Oh, we don't have anything. Oh, okay. All right. The wild horse fire, we did get an update on the containment. It's at 35% now. That just came in 2 seconds ago. But the boulevard is still closed between Hughes and McMaster, so try and avoid the area if you can. Maybe take the loop to get around to where you need to go. Take some of them smaller side streets. Just make sure you're avoiding kind of the general area around Martin Luther King Park. That's where that grass fire is continuing to burn right now. That's where you're seeing some of that smoke from our sky cam there in Bushland looking back to the west. Looks like it has really dissipated over the last 5-10 minutes. Here's the number of people that are without electricity. We're back up to 1,000, it looks like. So still 1,000 people without power. If we jump over to reflectivity and we put a lapse on this, you can actually see that smoke plume every now and then. You can see there was a little bit of it there. You can see again maybe another little bit of that plume earlier. Let's jump back like 3 hours. You can actually see the one coming out of New Mexico too, over Hartley and Oldham County. That's from that 352 fire there in Quay County. But that one again looks like it's really started to dwindle in its intensity. We haven't seen it flare up much on satellite as of late. The newest fire is the one over there by McLean. That one started over by the airport. No information on that one that we know of so far. Josiah just got off the phone with the sheriff's office, and they don't really have any information to give us right now. As they gather that information, they'll eventually relay it to us. But we do know that there's a fire out there by the airport on the north side of the interstate. So it's not going to pose a risk to travel there down the interstate, and will continue to burn away from the highway. So here's a quick look at the power outages. This is the number of people that do not have power in Potter County, and it is at about 1,000. And that's probably around the McMasters and Hughes area, right around the boulevard, right there in the North Heights district. So recent update, the wild horse fire is up to 35% containment. That's still an active fire, but that's according to the Texas A&M Forest Service. The BR6 fire is now up to 40% containment in that latest update. Get that changed over. That one ought to be contained very quickly given its small size and nature. The fact that there's not a whole lot of structures that they're going to have to fight around to save first before they put a containment line down. But the BR6 fire in Oldham County is up to 40% containment. Still seems as if the 352 fire is still around 0%. It's likely higher than that. We haven't seen it show up on satellite recently. It's pretty well petered out. That's been the biggest fire of the day. It's the 352 fire. It's burned approximately 1,000 acres. I'll let you guys look at satellite for a little while. All right, yeah, sorry, we're trying to work on our second system, and it's technically in a different state right now because we're having to be a little flexible, but we're going to make it work. All right, I'm going to drop this into closures in my folder, Josiah. So that fire is up to 35% containment here in Potter County. It does not look like there's a whole lot of smoke emanating from North Heights anymore. That's definitely some good news there. And then we've got Quay County, the 352 fire. Highway 469 still closed north of San Juan. There were probably a few homes that they were doing door-to-door evacuations, knocking on doors. That one's burned 1,000, approximately 1,000 acres. And then we do have the BR6 fire in Oldham County that's burned 10 acres, and that one's at 40% containment. Thanks. So, and that just so Josiah was, we got a statement from Excel Energy, and that has to do with the power outages. Again, they're de-energizing lines, so that first responders and firefighters can battle the blaze without worry. They are starting to make repairs where they are safe. There's 247 people without power is what's estimated. This number probably just hasn't updated yet. But you'll probably continue to watch it fluctuate as the fire continues. They'll probably continue to de-energize some power lines and some small strands and strings, but they're working on making repairs as necessary.
You should see it under
Fire update. Okay. Sweet. Thank you. So here's kind of a different view for you guys. If you want to do it with these other three, you can. I'm gonna rename them closures 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right, they should be in there. So this is, again, kind of where that fire is at here in Amarillo. It's right there around Martin Luther King Park. You sure you grabbed the right,
version.
yeah, you didn't grab the right version.
That one was under closures.
Yeah, but these are different. These are different because this is talking about Canadian. This is a different fire. Is it, are you in my frames folder? Sorry about that, y'all. All right. You put them under closures?
Sure.
Okay.
No, that one's fire. I rewrote the fire.
Okay. I might have actually overwrote yours, but that's okay. Start working on the third 352. So the fire here in Amarillo, it started at Martin Luther King Park and it continued. So the boulevard is closed between McMaster's and Hughes Street, right in here. So this stretch of highway that goes over the railroad tracks is closed right now. There's about 247 people that have not had power stored. There's one person that still has, actually, sorry, 246 people have had power restored. That was sent 4 minutes ago from Xcel Energy. There's one person still without power of the 247. Additional outages are possible. Just keep that in mind as that fire is still active and still not fully contained. So the good news is if we take a live look from our Skycam, you really can't see any smoke emanating from that source anymore. That's some good news for us. Let's go ahead and take a look at our current conditions. Temperature still 75 degrees here in the Amarillo area. We did not set a record today. It was hot though. It was definitely more spring-like than it was winter weather. 68 in Tulia. Those winds are finally starting to calm down. We do still have the red flag warning that will continue until 7 p.m. this evening. They did extend that 1 hour today. You can see our relative humidity values are starting to recover a little bit with the temperature starting to fall off, but we're still solidly in critical conditions. And when we talk about a critical fire threat, we're talking about a level 2 out of 4. So kind of here's our threat levels. You can see we've got elevated here and in the orange. That's just a 1 out of 4. Critical is level 2 out of 4. Extremely critical is 3 out of 4, which we actually kind of got real close to that. We were bordering that extremely critical concern for about an hour this afternoon. That was kind of the height of the temperatures when they were at their worst, when our relative humidity values were around 7% and our winds were sustained around 20 to 30 miles an hour. We did not have extreme conditions today, but that is still a threshold that we can sometimes see here in the panhandles. If you've lived here any length of time, you know that we're a day closer to the next extreme event than we were yesterday. And it's possible that we may get to that point at some point this year as well. We do have quite a bit of fuel vegetation out there from last year's growing season. We had a lot of rain, a lot of consistent rain, and so the grasses continued to grow and grow. And as they started to run out of moisture, we got another big rain event, widespread rain event. And so there's a lot of fuel, especially and in particular along and west of Amarillo, from us to Tucumcari. The Southwest Panhandle, I mean, there was a lot of rain here in the summer last year. And so for areas that aren't maintained, rangeland that isn't necessarily grazed, that stuff's going to have a lot of fuel to burn this year. So we don't really need any fires starting in those areas. There's ways that you can get around that. Borger actually conducted a prescription burn last week. They burned a 7-mile long stretch along the highway to prevent any potential wildfires on the west southwest side of town from threatening their community. That was proven to be very effective last year with one of our fires that we had. And so they do work. Prescription burns are helpful. And that's why they do implement some of those here in the high plains. Let's take a look at your computer model for when that front's going to arrive. We think it's going to hit Amarillo around 4 a.m. and we will end up seeing some strong winds again tomorrow out of the north, though, and temperatures are going to be much colder, so our humidity will be higher than it was today. We'll still have a wind-driven fire issue, but with the humidity as high as it's going to be, it'll probably be more of an elevated concern. It won't be a big risk to us. And then we'll end up seeing some isolated rain showers probably stream very close to Cottle County tomorrow night. I'm not sold that we see rain in the DMA. I think that those could be even further south. The northern periphery of an overrunning rain event usually is very lackluster. Our last snow event is proof of that they tend to underperform from what model expectations show. And so if you're in Paducah, if you're in Childress, I don't want to get your hopes up on rain tomorrow. Tomorrow night specifically into Wednesday morning. It is very possible that there's a low chance maybe an isolated shower comes through, but it's not a guarantee. In fact, I would favor you to stay dry over seeing any kind of moisture with that event. The next thing that we'll be watching is actually for our Valentine's Day weekend, mainly Friday the 13th. Thursday into Friday, we'll see that cold front start to crash to the south, and we'll see our next storm system come in from the southwest. You can see the jet stream coming in with that southwest flow, surface trough starting to pull in from the southeast. We'll get some good moisture fetched in from the Gulf Coast, and that's going to allow for probably some thunderstorms in the southeast panhandle. There's going to be marginally enough instability that we could get some rumbles of thunder out of this stuff. I think if you get further east back towards kind of the Denison, Denton, Dallas, and maybe even Oklahoma City, it may be more of a severe weather event than it is anything else. Back into the Arklatex area, the Mississippi River Valley, probably a severe weather event possible with this event coming through over the weekend. I don't think we're going to have enough instability to get any severe storms in the panhandles with this system, but I do think that we'll have enough instability for some rumbles of thunder. But we'll continue to watch it. It's still 4.5, 5 days away, but that is our next potential weather maker. In fact, models are very excited about it potentially providing us with some rainfall. There's a very good consensus in mid-range models right now that we'll see something measurable. It may not be a lot, but something measurable is better than nothing at all. If we get a ½ inch of rain, I think everyone will be stoked. That is not favored right now. I think our median percent, our 50th percentile average is like about a ¼ inch of rain in Amarillo. So that's probably where our reasonable expectations should be with this event. We're not expecting an inch of rain, but we are expecting maybe some spots to pick up a few tenths of an inch of rainfall out of that system. So it's something. It's not nothing. It probably isn't going to be enough to really eliminate our fire conditions heading into the spring months. It probably won't be enough to allow for a full-fledged green up, but we have been very warm. We've been very dry. I would imagine we're probably going to need a nice widespread 1 to 2 inch rain to allow for our green up to really get going this year. Last year was kind of an exception. We had a really heavy rain event in November. We had a really wet December last winter. And so there was moisture already stored up in the soil. And so when we started getting those, ¼ to ½ inch rains, the grass really just greened up pretty quick. Our fire season ended pretty fast this past fire weather season. This year might be a little different. We've been very dry. We did have a lot of rain last summer, and that will probably lead to us having some fire concerns heading into the rest of February, March, potentially into April. Now, the silver lining with that is we are fading out of La Nina. I mean, I think La Nina is basically dead at this point. We're in an ENSO neutral kind of conditions right now, maybe slightly below average for those anomalies, but it's not necessarily a ½ inch degree away from what's considered null space anymore. So we're falling back into ENSO neutral territory. And the wide theme and thought process is we should pretty quickly move towards El Nino this summer. And we might even start seeing El Nino conditions where we're talking about at least a half degree above normal for a degree Celsius above average as early as probably April or May. That's some of the more aggressive models, but by the time we get like full-fledged into summer and our summer monsoon, I think it's very possible that we're in El Nino conditions, and that will probably bode well for our growing season for the ag producers, should we start to really fall into that better pattern. So something to look forward to. But for now, we do have the fire conditions to contend with. So if you want any updates about the fire here in the Amarillo area, here's kind of what we know. It's up to 35% containment. It is burning between Hughes and McMaster's, mainly around Martin Luther King Park, around the boulevard. Amarillo Boulevard is closed between McMaster's and Hughes. You're going to want to find an alternative route to get to your destination. You should already be avoiding this area. This fire's been burning for about 5 hours now, so it's not necessarily new to anyone anymore. But this fire continues to keep the boulevard closed just due to where it's at. So just try and avoid this area if you can. There are some air resources being utilized. There are some single engine air tankers that are both coordinating with ground crews and potentially even putting down fire retardant mixed with water to potentially help kind of put down some better flanks on this fire where they deem it necessary. The 352 fire, that one is 1,000 acres burned and at 0% containment. That one's over in Quay County. We haven't seen that one flare up on satellite very much, so that's some good news there. But Highway 469 still closed. There was probably some door-to-door evacuations with that one because it was a big fire, grew very quickly. But if you guys have been down I-40 between San Juan and Tucumcari, you know why it got so big so fast is because that's rugged terrain. There's a lot of vegetation out there from last year, and it's just open country. And it's probably very hard and difficult for ground resources to get to the head of the fire with that one until it gets to probably a marked road or things like that. But it looks like they stopped it on 469. And then for the BR6 fire in Oldham County, that one's at 10 acres burned. It's at 40% containment according to Texas A&M Forest Service from their last update. Looks like that has not changed. And we do have another vegetation fire. We've just been kind of calling it that fire by McLean. It's on County Road 1 and County Road Z east of McLean. So it's not a threat to the town or the community. It's going to burn away from McLean itself. But it's technically over in the southwest corner of Wheeler County. And that one's going to burn. It's over there by the airport. But that one was noticed about 30 to 45 minutes ago on satellite.
I updated fire update 2. That should be in your folder. And that'll be the play
Fire update 2, you said?
now.
All right, I see that one. Thank you, sir. So this is that other fire. This is the 352 fire. We can get rid of this one just so that you guys have a visual aid too as to where that fire is burning. That one started at County Road, or not County Road, mile marker 352 and is burned up to Highway 469 here. Actually, it might be on this one too. It is. Sorry, the clock was changing for you all. It's okay. So it's five. Yeah. Um, Here, come here real quick, Josiah. I'll just show you. When you make this next one, so in time settings, you can see how we have it's going to say lapse time of 1. Last hours, it's going to be 45 minutes delayed, so just change it to local time when played.
Okay. Local time.
And then that'll change our time to a correct time.
Perfect.
So the red flag warning will run until 7 p.m. this evening. It started to run until 6, but they've actually extended it to run all the way out until 7 o'clock tonight.
You know, if the Boys Ranch one, if it's west or east of 385?
It looked like it was west, but I can't confirm that. Because the satellite's not directly over the panhandle either, so kind of looking at an angle. It was south of Boys Ranch, though, like right there where Boys Ranch Highway and 385 meet. It was south of there by probably a couple of miles.
The Market County Road.
Here, if you want to use this, you can kind of get a good estimate.
So here's Boys Ranch right up here. There's Tesco, so it's down here. There's actually a keep going, keep going. It's right here. So there's a road here. Oh, okay.
All right, we got 2.5 minutes. It's BR6 fire. Yes, sir. Um,
Is it like dash 6?
no, it's just all bunched together. B, R, and 6.
All the
So they did extend the red flag warning to 10 p.m. Go ahead and get that changed. It's interesting. Hasn't populated in our system yet.
Any chance does the app show maybe a closer look at where the McLean one might be? Because I can eyeball it. Pretty sure I have a good sense of where it is, but
Yeah, it's just called a vegetation fire, but
okay. They said by the
yes, sir. So it does look like there are 2 homes that were burned in that wild horse fire that we know of so far. There was 2 homes on Northwest 9th Street that caught fire, and AFD believes it was as a result of the wild horse fire. Do you want me to drop these into a folder for you to create a graphic?
or
Just for the pictures that Jamie sent?
you can, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put gee whiz, those are huge. All right, they're gonna be under miscellaneous in the February folder. There should be 4 images there.
What do you want to do, please?
Just make like a full screen graphic with the title.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just state, two. You could just put like 2 homes burned due to wild horse fire. And those were on Northwest 9th Street. So there were 2 homes that were burned in Northwest 9th Street. February. Yeah, links, graphics, miscellaneous. Yes, sir.
uh,
And then for those that are just curious about the second system that's coming through this weekend, we are growing pretty confident that there is going to be some precipitation that comes about from that one. So that'll be some good news for us. You can see as we move to Thursday, cold front starting to crash in from the North Plains. We've got southwest flow. Here's kind of that big jet that's in the main trough that's positive tilt at least Thursday. Now heading into Friday, you can see it starts to become more of a neutral tilt, and that's going to help pull in some of that better moisture that we need in order to get some precipitation here around our vicinity. So something to potentially look forward to. Notice the precipitation types. You've probably got winter weather up in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, Red River. Taos probably going to get some snow. Areas in southern Colorado could get a little bit of some snow. Now you get into the plains, and it becomes a lot more questionable. In fact, most of us will probably have just colder rain. The further southeast you go, could be some thunderstorms down towards Childress and Paducah. That's another thing that we'll have to monitor for later this week. So wildfire weather today, colder, windy day tomorrow, back to sunny and warm and 75 degrees on Thursday, and then by Friday and Saturday, we'll start to have that chance for some precipitation. Right now, it looks like most models have it coming in Friday night through the day on Saturday. So that's where we've dropped your pop on Friday to 10%. That can still change. We're still 4 or 5 days away, but we are growing more optimistic about seeing some liquid precipitation this weekend, especially around Valentine's Day in the morning. The timing of this will probably determine on if we'll actually have winter weather to contend with. If it comes through Friday night, possibility, yes, there, especially for those counties in the far northwest like Union, Dallam, and Cimarron. Here in Amarillo, I would heavily lean towards it just being cold rain. I don't think we're going to see any winter weather. I mean, you can see our low temp that morning is set at 36, and we should end up in the 40s and maybe squeeze into the low 50s in the afternoon for a few minutes. But overall, will be too warm for any kind of frozen precipitation. But moisture is a good thing. We need it. It has been very dry as of late. There's about a, go ahead and look at it. There's about a 50% chance in eastern New Mexico for a tenth of an inch of rain for areas around Clovis all the way up towards Clayton, New Mexico, where there's as high as a 70% chance for a tenth of an inch of liquid precipitation. You get into Union County, especially towards Des Moines, they could see probably at least an inch of snow up there, but they're in a much higher elevation than we are, and they're at like 6,500 feet, whereas we're under 4,000, which will make or break the difference. So here's a live look at the sky cam in Bushland. Looks like things are finally calming down. We may actually get to end our stream here within the next 10-15 minutes or so. But conditions continue to improve. And when we say improve, we mean that the winds are dying down, the temperatures are cooling off. We'll probably do our full weather hit here, come back on and wrap things up with you, and we'll let you guys get back to the rest of your evening. But we did have 4 fires today in the Panhandle and eastern New Mexico. 3 of them were in the Panhandle, and then the other one was there in Quay County and the Land of Enchantment. So we're looking at our Bushland camera. You can, as long as it's streaming okay, you can see there's a lack of smoke out here where that was a different story earlier this afternoon. That's good news. It means that firefighters probably getting a pretty good handle on that fire there on the north side of town. Unfortunately, there are 2 homes that were consumed in that fire on Northwest 9th Street that we know of. The Amarillo Fire Department does believe that the result of those homes burning was because of the Wild Horse Fire that did get going this afternoon in Martin Luther King Park. And so prayers out to those families who potentially lost a home this evening. But there were 2 structures that we know of that were burned, and that's directly from one of our reporters. Actually, I think that's from our news director out there. But we'll probably wrap things up pretty quick here. We've got our full weather hit coming up here in less than 2 minutes, so we'll let you guys kind of just watch everything roll through, and then we'll come back. We'll talk about where we're at, where we stand for the rest of this evening, and then talk about that chance of rain coming up later this weekend here in a moment. All right, y'all. Well, I think we're going to wrap things up here in the next couple of minutes. We'll just kind of blow through our full weather hit for you guys as well. So we'll just start at the top, kind of run through things once we get to that 7 day. We're going to end your stream and we'll just kind of give you some periodic updates on like Facebook and Twitter for the remainder of the evening. But we do want to thank you guys for tuning in. Sun is about to set here in the high plains. There's still a little bit of some smoke out there, but not a bunch. Definitely not near as much as there was earlier this afternoon. As far as we know, Amarillo Boulevard is still closed between McMaster's and Hughes. That fire is at 15 acres burn and 35% containment. Unfortunately, there were two fires. Actually, they just upped it to 60% containment here in the last few minutes. So we'll get that changed.
Both of these homes burned on that northwest night, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and there's two homes that burned on Northwest 9th Street as a result of this fire. So it sounds like this is probably starting to get into mop-up duty with this fire. They've got a containment line around 60% of that perimeter, so that is some good news there. Texas A&M Forest Service updated that about 10-15 minutes ago. Trying to get stuff posted to Facebook, it's taken a minute. And then, so we'll jump over to 352 fire as well. That one, we haven't seen any updates on the containment of that fire, but I would imagine it is better than 0%, which is where it's been most of the day. But the last update was 1,000 acres burned and 0% containment, and that was early this afternoon at like 1:38 p.m. So, you know, sorry, that was at 4 o'clock, which is the last update. It started at 1:38.
And then like 1, 2, 3, 4, WF for Boswell side.
Okay, thank you. All right. And then the B6 wildfires up to 40% containment, and then the vegetation fire there in Gray/Wheeler County. And we'll show you again, just unfortunately, there was a couple of homes that were burned as a result of the wild horse fire. We'll start here again. This is just some photos from ABC 7. This is on Northwest 9th Street. Again, the Amarillo Fire Department does believe that these homes were consumed in that fire as a result of the wild horse. And again, you can kind of see there was two homes there that did catch a blaze, unfortunately. So prayers out to the families that live there as their homes were consumed by that grass fire this afternoon. Temperatures are in the 60s and 70s right now. We are expecting them to continue to cool off. Winds are starting to become more manageable in that 15 to 25 range, and humidity is starting to climb. We're up to 15% relative humidity in Amarillo, back up to 20% in Tulia, and still in the single digits up here in the northwest corner. But we do have critical fire conditions still kind of present right now. Those will probably subside relatively quickly tonight. The National Weather Service in Amarillo did extend this until 10 p.m. The others will probably be allowed to expire pretty early, and I don't think we'll see critical fire conditions until 10 o'clock tonight. So here's our computer model for the next 2 days. You can see that next cold front will arrive sometime in the morning. We think it'll reach Amarillo around 3 a.m. And then we'll see a pretty strong wind tomorrow. But the good news is, unfortunately, the temperatures will be colder and humidity will be high. And so we don't expect critical fire conditions tomorrow, but we will see maybe an elevated wind-driven fire issue. And then heading into Wednesday, winds are going to be a dime a dozen. Take advantage of Wednesday if you can. It's going to be a beautiful afternoon. We'll be in the 60s, and winds should stay under 20 miles per hour. And then the next thing that we'll be watching is that next storm system coming out of the desert southwest. You can kind of see where our flow is at. You can see the jet streams just indicating that there's a positively tilted trough coming down the coast of California on Thursday. By Friday, that thing's going to start to make its way into the Baja Peninsula, and then eventually by Friday night, we'll be in an area, at least upstream of us, that we will probably see the chance for some rainfall. There is a chance we'll even see some thunderstorms because there's going to be some pretty higher dew points starting to surge into the southeast panhandle Friday night into Saturday. The exact timing, if it comes in Friday night, Friday the 13th, overnight, there could be some areas up here in the northwest that have a rain snow mix. So that might be something to kind of pay closer attention to. But for most of us, this is going to be a rain event. We're not expecting it to be heavy, but it is going to probably provide us with some meaningful moisture, more than what we've seen as of late. So we've got a 60% chance for rain in Amarillo posted for your Saturday for Valentine's Day for right now. That will probably change as we get closer. The 10% will probably change as we get closer. If the system speeds up, you're going to see those numbers jump to Friday. It'll probably come in sometime Friday night through Saturday at this point. At least that's kind of the expectation. But we're still 4.5 to 5 days out, expect there to be some room for error or some room for adjustments. So we just know that Friday night into Saturday is probably that main window of opportunity for us to see some precipitation. And notice our temperature, 36 in Amarillo, not cold enough for snow to stick. I still don't think we'll see any snow at all. But I guess if it's a really cold bias storm and the cold bias wins out, a flake possible. But I really think it's going to be liquid rain at this point. We're going to end your live here. Again, things are continuing to calm down. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening.